So yeah, my name is Pavel Chunyaev. I'm going to talk about how Ansible helps Backbase. And I would like this to be more of a conversation. So, of course, I will tell how we're using it, what exactly happening, but I would like to get feedback from you. The good parts, the bad parts, if you don't agree with something, or you should do it like this, just raise your hand, we will have a discussion. If you don't understand some part that I'm showing, also please raise your hand, because it's going to be also a demo and we can go as deep as you would like it to be. But again, I would like to hear feedback from you, because we are discussing it, we're implementing things, and I will show you them. I want to get something in return. Your ideas, and if you think that we are going in the right direction or not. Okay? So who am I? I come from Ukraine. More than 11 years already working in IT. I worked in Ukraine, in Estonia, now in the Netherlands. I am employed by Live9 IT Services as a continuous delivery architect. I help our clients establish and optimize deployment pipelines to bring the software to production. For Backbase, last 6 months I'm working as automation architect, and it's an interesting challenge for me because it has nothing to do with production, and you will see it in a moment. So some background regarding what we're going to talk. The product that I will talk about and the product where we're using it is called Backbase CXP. It's a customer experience platform. Essentially, this is the banking portal software. And if you've got an account in ABN AMRO, you were using Backbase CXP. Probably not the banks, but I'm not marketing guy, so I don't know. But this is essentially a portal that we're going to automate. How it looks like? It consists from the 3 main services: core services, the main engine, content services, how the documents, images, and all the information is stored, publication services, how the data gets between environments. Because we need 3 environments. They're called editorial, stage, and live. On editorial, someone makes changes, prepares them, publishes to staging to show if everything is fine, and then finally they go to live, where they're presented to customers. So this makes things tricky, because we just can't provision environments on one server. Well, we can, but this won't be any kind of setup that people out there are using, real banks that are installing and using this. So we need this multi-server configuration in the basic setup. It can go even more complicated with load balancer, with different 6, 7 servers. But this is the bare minimum for 1 editorial, 1 stage, and 1 live. Each one consists of 3 services. This is Java application and the database. And because this is a packaged software, so there is no production, and customers are using it in numerous different configurations. So it can be different Java versions, 6, 7, 8. We need to test application, all of those. Application server, Tomcat, JBoss, WebSphere of the different versions, Liberty Code, WebLogic, all of those need to be tested. Different databases, DB2, MySQL, MySQL cluster. Really complicated. HTTP or HTTPS. Both need to work using even internal communication between services. Different internal configuration options. You can configure your service like this or like that. You need to test in both if it's working or not. And optional application features. Not, well, for some they are disabled, for some they're enabled. They need to be working and see how they're working together. So essentially, yeah, when we started, we need to automate creation of different environments, just to be able to test, to see if everything's fine. A lot of things were already automated. So, and they are. So, there are already servers created for different configurations, and they can be updated. We just need to start and update the just deployment version of the application. It's not as easy because for some configurations you need to really make repackaging, add some jar files inside, remove, change the configuration. It can be automated through Maven, and it makes things easier, but then you are building the software yourself. It's not taken from Artifactory storage, so it can be different than the one you want. There is also a sandbox environment that gets automatically redeployed every night, and everyone is using it. It's a great process. The only problem with this environment is only one server. So it kind of looks more or less like the thing that people will use, but it's one server, everything is there. It's not for a production setup. And if you want to add something new, go and create a new server. You can clone it, deploy it, then reconfigure it manually. It's not fun. And this requires a lot of work. So you can't just click a button and get a new environment. You need to manually change it. And a lot of things can go wrong, and it's not interesting to do it manually, because it eats all your time, and well, it's not fun. So yeah, and the most important idea here that I think it should take less time for you to create your whole environment from the scratch than to go and fix it and update it. And this is the concept of immutable infrastructure in the wider sense. If you want to change something, go and create it from the scratch. The biggest advantage here is that you know exactly how much time it will take for you. But if you go in to fix it and update it, well, how much time will it take? Who knows? But even if something goes wrong, you've got an opportunity to start from the scratch, and you will know how much time it will take. Okay. What? Sorry?
If your network is good.
If your network. What we did here, an overview. So we've created a service we call the autoconfig that consists of different parts. Ansible at the bottom is responsible for doing most of the work. Creating environments, configuring deploying application. I will talk in details about this. REST API backend. Okay, anyway, it's REST API service that sits on top of that. That is the only point of communication with Ansible. I will talk in more details about it. And UI application that sits on top for enabling self-service for developers. Again, I will show you. Why have we chosen Ansible? And frankly speaking, I wasn't the one who made the decision. I came here and the decision was already made, and for me it was like, oh, I've spent years working with Puppet and Chef. Ansible. Something's wrong with it. Half a year later, I would say you Puppet and Chef. No, don't use it. Ansible is the tool, and it provides a lot of advantages, and I try to do them here. For me, Python is the biggest advantage because I know Python, I write in Python. I don't know Ruby. No master. To me, Puppet, and in some sense Chef, belongs to the old world. When you need to have infrastructure and reuse it all the time. You need to maintain the state of it. In the new world, you no longer need to maintain the state. You need to provision it once. If something's wrong, create a new one. For this, you don't need master. You don't need agents. You want to do it as quick as possible. Ansible, I think, is the perfect tool for that. It's open source. I mostly learned about Ansible by reading source code. And for implementing the REST service, I just read the source code. It's available, and I learned how I can use it for my own purpose. Well, I don't know any actual configuration management tool that is closed source or proprietary anymore, but yeah, it's still a good advantage. Plenty of modules, great EC2 support. This is what we're using. Windows support, we're not yet that into Windows, but we need to have it. I'm reading more that Ansible is working hard to enable more advanced support for Windows. One day I may tell you more about it. Not today then. Parallel but controllable execution, so we really are in charge how it's going on, and most of all, quite simple for developer to understand. If you work with Puppet and Chef and try to explain to a developer how to do it yourself, well, for him to add something, you probably you won't like it. it's hard and it's not fun to work with Puppet and Chef. And the Chef is hard to go from the perspective of how the code looks like. Puppet is just hard to understand. Ansible is super simple, and some pieces of the code were created by developers, and they didn't have any struggle creating this. Why REST service? So we want it to be the single point of contact for any infrastructure requests. So the idea is that you send specially formatted JSON message, what kind of configuration do you want, and then the service will process it, trigger Ansible. Ansible will create the configuration you want, the stack, and return back information. Okay, I'm done. And this can be integrated into CI tools, into other tools, into UI, into scripts. And then it makes things easier from some perspective. It's harder because you need another service layer, but it's easier because then anything goes from there and it's controlled stuff. UI developers and QA engineers just need environments from time to time, and opening a ticket and waiting hours, if you like, or days, instead of you can just click a button and get it. So okay, I talked a lot and not about Ansible. Let me show you something. How? Okay, let's do it like this. First of all, let me show you what we're doing. Okay, no. Yeah. It was tricky. Let me also do it this way. Can I do it? No. I will try to duplicate my screen so I don't have to do that. Extend.
Maybe a lower resolution.
Yeah. Let's try. Okay. Two changes.
Oh, maybe you can lower the resolution.
Yes. Okay. What do you think will go? This one?
Yeah.
Let's try. Is it better?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we are doing this for application CXP, as I showed, and we are doing for the version that is currently in development. It's going to be released soon. The version is 5.6, but also we're having split it into two things. First of all, we have common modules. These are the things that are the basic setup. How do you want to get some database and some application server on the server? And these things, I will show you the code in a moment. Well, these are just YAML files, they're just structured in this way. But the most logic and the most things lies into the directory of 5.6, where we are creating special configuration. Our idea is that once we get into more versions of the application, we will just have more directories here, and then all the logic will be there, and all the shared logic will lie outside. Okay? So this was one part. Now we can think about the source code. So all starts with the stacks. Stacks is the configuration we're calling. So here it will just start as simple that anyhow, what we're doing, we're starting with the base stack of 5.6. Do you actually see it, or I need to increase? How to do it? No. Oops. Is it better or more?
No, it's good.
Okay. So actually, for us, it's just mostly the list of includes, depending on what we're doing. We're downloading application, creating infrastructure, and then configuring it depending on what we need. Some interesting parts here. Well, it all starts with the EC2. So, oops. So, everything that we are doing there is just creating instances, but we're creating a number of instances. We're passing the server roles, and this allows us to create, in this case, 4, or regardless how many we send just environment name. The environment name is generated in the service. I will show you later. But then we're waiting for SSH, we're creating DNS records. These things are no longer required. We create host groups to be able to then access the service we want based on the host groups. This etc host is just because route 53 has lag of 1 minute, up to 1 minute for the routes to be able to, for the names to become available. And we are overcoming this. And then, actually, yeah, it goes further after this. What goes next? Let's have a look. We're downloading application. We are configuring. Interesting, we think solution found. When we want to configure database, we want to do it anyway. So it's always the host with this name. So environment name -db where you're using. So regardless of how it's called, we will always get to this host, SSH there, and configure. And then depending on which database, we will add to the specific folder, and it will be configured. Is it okay so far? No questions? Okay. Same goes with the application server. So, yeah, we configure Java, then yeah, well, on the server again, depending on which one we want. So this creates one unique playbook that is expanded using includes, but then there is certain decision moments depending on which variables we pass. So it's kind of big thing, but then the branch and leaf you end up with, it depends on the configuration. We can go then later in more details, but then this is essentially the structure. In common we have all the things that are common for everything, and we think that for more environments, for more versions of the application, will be the same. Then, after all, we've got the specific ones. Yes.
I have a question because I see that you have a WebSphere folder.
Yes.
This WebSphere is for a Linux machine or for
for Linux.
What happened with AX?
We don't test on AX in this particular scenario. These are sent to us VMs that we create at Amazon when they need it. And yeah, we can configure WebSphere. WebSphere is the slowest to be configured. Though it is fully automatable easily through Python, DLL, Jython, and you can do everything without even a web interface. So it's actually, it's slow, it's huge, but well, it's automatable, at least for our purposes. I won't go in every folder and show because, well, it makes no sense. The idea is that if we need something, we enter the folder and there are templates there and YAML files that make things happen. Okay? Yes?
So you don't use roles?
No. There is an interesting discussion. We don't use roles. We want to think how they would be used here, because I feel it would make things easier with roles. But then there is a question: we're not using Ansible playbook command. We're not running from a command line. So there might be issues because then at the moment when it's all started, we decided, okay. No roles, we're just using it as plain as it is with the decision tree. Now it gets complicated, so we will try to see if roles fit into this. I feel that they might make things easier, but then for this particular case we're not using it.
But now you have one big decision tree actually
Yes.
in your playbook structure. If you would use roles, you would have more decoupling.
Yeah, so
You
we
can just create little repos for your roles, similar to what you would take from the Galaxy. So
Yep.
you can delegate some of these roles to particular people and have more control over the composite.
this is true. So the biggest limitation we found already now, and where roles are a lot better than these huge decision trees, includes, it's like conditional includes, or includes with loops. With role, you just either include it or not. With includes and conditional includes, it includes whole playbook, all the tasks is just with conditional in every task. So you are effectively making your playbook run longer when you don't need to. So this is where roles are easy, because then you can include the role depending on the fact or depending on some variable, and it will be either included or not. With just includes, like for example include here. Do I have when here? Well, I don't have when, but here I have includes, and if I want to include it conditionally, if I will put when here, it will be included anyway. Just when will be assigned to every task there. So it takes some time, but it makes it longer.
Did you start in a version of Ansible that in the roles?
It was 1.7,
Oh,
yes.
nice.
So it wasn't the
Not
top,
much,
yes. There was some issue, because again, we're studying it from Python, and there was some issue with where to put those roles, so they're found, so we can find them. Again, maybe it's not an issue after all, and I fully understand that we want to try it again, so this is the thing that we can improve here.
You have something on top of it.
Yes.
Is it open source?
No. Okay, let's go further. This was demo. So what we're using, the features roles you see, sorry, we're not. I'm thinking of those. But these are the things, they are common for everyone, I think. Handlers, if you want to restart some services. Variables, we're heavily using variables. Jinja templates, this is the feature that we use a lot. Facts, conditions, includes, host groups.
Do you install Factor for Facts?
No. I think I will show how. We're not using facts that heavily, but I will show in a moment. So EC2, this clear, the most important things here is that we register variable to then be able to find information and to use information there, and we do it cyclically. We also make use of used data to add some information. So the facts, this is in a nutshell how we're using it. So we're getting it from the used data and then assigning to variable this environment. So environment will know what type of environment is it. Is it a database? Is it editorial? Is it staging or live? And then we're running the very same playbook that, depending on the role, can well, in this way, this environment. It's not an Ansible role, but depending on what type of environment it is, it will get self-configured. Route 53, yeah, this is why we needed the variable EC2, because then we want to get IP addresses from here. We found that Route 53 gets a limitation of 4 API requests per second. And then when you are deploying scale, and we are deploying 10 by 40 instances simultaneously minimum, a lot of those fail. This is interesting trick how we overcome it. It's just on team. So super easy, you register a variable, if it's not success, try again. We add random delays because again we're starting a lot of services simultaneously, and unless we add this random delay, they will all try to do it together, and this is never okay. Templates, We create configuration files and also context XMLs, XMI files for the different. They heavily rely on what kind of configuration we want. So we create logic for those. If these parameters were sent, you will enable this. They will transform into this part of the text file. I can't now imagine how would we have done it without this thing. It would be SADs or I don't know grabs, replacements or cuts. This would be awful. Waveform, interesting thing we use. So Liberty Core, an idea to try to strip off WebSphere. It needs to we need to do it twice. This is a fact. So we first start it and it just starts. It's cool, it starts, but then it deploys application only when you are accessing those. So we are putting a file that will trigger access and then waiting for it to start.
I have a question.
Yes, certainly.
How do you deploy your services, the sources of your product?
Sorry, what do you mean?
How do you deploy your sources of your product? Do you use source control environment?
No. So here actually, that is the next slide. I wanted to talk about the different thing here, but effectively this is what we are doing. So first we started with the downloading from Artifactory. Artifactory is this artifact server. And we are doing this with builds. We are not building application from the source code, not. The package that we're downloading is 0.5 GB in size. And this is not fun for the server, when again 40 or 80 or more service tries to download those simultaneously. So when you're downloading in 4 streams, well, it can go up to 10 minutes, okay. So we decided to use a S3 bucket, and it takes seconds, regardless of the number of instances doing this simultaneously. So we've created ways that, okay, we additionally published to S3 bucket, not only to Artifactory, just for the sake of being able to easily download this.
Did you try this with an unarchive module?
What do you mean?
Did you try this also with an unarchive module?
Yes.
So you use
Then we are archiving those, yes. Here we're actually just downloading it. And shell, because you see, in order to be able to download from S3, I need to have credentials. And for that, I need to, if I'm using S3 module provided by Ansible, I would need to specify credentials there or somehow identify those. What I want to do instead is I want to assign an AWS or IAM role to the server, and then credentials will be implicit, implied, like S3 simply allows. It gets credentials itself, and then authenticates, and then downloads. So I don't have this additional step, and then I'm archiving it. But shell here is just because this functionality is not an Ansible module. And anywhere where it's not an Ansible module, you need to go back to shell.
Create a module.
Sorry?
Or create a module.
Or create a module. Because it's just one line, it's easier to just run in shell. And you see, it's not idempotent, and a lot of people are talking about idempotency and being very important. Idempotency is really important when you're applying the same configuration over and over again and to the server that is provisioned, because otherwise it will go wrong. For us, it's not an issue because we're running playbook only once. So we don't run it twice, and if some commands are not idempotent, it's not a problem. So this is the kind of when you can compare Ansible to Puppet. Declarative code you are creating or imperative code. In declarative you're showing, I want the server to be in this state, regardless how. In imperative you're saying, do this and that. Bash scripts are essentially imperative code. You are specifying what exactly you want to do. And Bash scripts were long ago. That's why Puppet appeared, CF engine in the first place. But suddenly anyone who used Docker knows that actually Docker is essentially everywhere. Whenever you start, it's a Bash script. Why? Is it a problem? It's not a problem because you're doing this only once. You're not repeatedly doing this. Yeah, it went in a weird direction, but did I answer your question?
Well, in this use case, you could also create a little cache and then check if it's in the cache and if not, download.
Where?
Huh?
Where to create a
Yeah, on your own file system somewhere. or in your control?
This thing is updated frequently.
Okay.
So
Just continue.
most of these binaries like WebSphere binary, MySQL binary, Tomcat binary, they are in the image because you don't want to download them over and over again. And WebSphere is 1 GB in size. It's not fun just downloading it over. It is in the image and it's updated real. When it is updated, we upload new version to S3, click a button, and a new image is created. But then,
So your whole stack is in one deployable unit. This is your unit. You download one thing, and then you get all the pieces.
yeah,
that
and
you
then
need.
you remove everything you
Yeah.
don't need. Yeah, it's like that now. I probably will talk later if we've got time about how I see we can do it even better. But now a bit about API. This was API created. Most important things here is that you can get the list of environments provision, you can create environment for specific step, delete one specific environment, or delete all. Any lifecycle management of the system goes through API. Yeah. Maybe it's quick time for another demo. I can, while I will continue talking, if I get mouse, yes. I can, let's see. In Vagrant, I'm running the code locally. Just so I can show you. Let's see. Okay, it's running. I will try to make it. Is it better? Oh, well, sorry. You're not seeing anything. And this is my fault. Let's see again. No. Let's see, show settings. Settings are here. Okay. So we started it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to. You won't see it now, but because it's. But I will send the API request to create stack local instances. It's just to provision instances and slightly configure those. But what I'm doing here, I'm also authenticated. Otherwise it won't go. So we need to have
Sorry, what kind of tool is this? What you...
It's a special written tool in Python. I can show you the source code in a minute while I show what is happening here. So it should go. Yeah, it starts provisioning. While it's provisioning, let me get back to, well, actually, it will go like an Ansible run. It will create infrastructure. I will tell you what exactly will happen there. So, when you want to create, it checks if the user is valid. Is HTTP basic authentication, and it checks itself against Active Directory accounts. So only if I want to record the user who is creating this. If it's valid, it passes the configuration, analyzes it, and then creates unique environment name. And unique environment name consists of an adjective, noun, and 2 digits. Then it triggers Ansible that does all the thing and returns environment name. Let's see, okay, it's still waiting for SSH to come up. But then, yeah, we're creating 4 servers here of T2 medium, these things. If you want to destroy, it will check first of all if environment exists. If not, well, sorry. It checks if you are the owner of the environment you're going to create, because if you're not, sorry, you can't delete someone else's environment. And then clip everything up. DNS is load balancers if they exist, just so environment is gone. What is happening here? Okay, something. Okay, it will do the rest of the things. You see, this is the name. It's like the name Weathered Forest 12. Okay. But that is just a random thing. I'm not selecting those names. I have list of adjectives, list of nouns, they are selected random, and sometimes it's funny. And as the result, we get something like this. Again, I can't increase the font here, but it returns a JSON message, environment name is this, and then you can use this name for something else. I will show you for example. Now let's destroy this environment.
Is the application that you wrote?
Yes.
Did you consider Tower?
Yes. It looked like Tower fits more into running the service that exists for longer time. For us, the idea is that you create and dispose them quickly. Again, I will show in a moment, but then you create the infrastructure, you run the test, and you destroy the infrastructure. It's not required for long. It's just an on-demand, and then it is deleted. I can also delete all, but I won't show you. But this is essentially how any program or you manually can work on this. Okay, let's go further. The demo I've showed. This is the current UI application we have. It's Jenkins. We haven't yet created it. Yes. But Jenkins is fine for now. It was fine, but the number of options goes more and more and more, and some of the options are not included here just to not confuse people. But here we're at the stage where we need to create final UI application, otherwise, well, it gets tricky for people, and especially some of the options are, like for example, DB2 version. It only makes sense if you select DB2. WebSphere version, only if WebSphere, and so on and so forth. But this is how people are creating their environments now. They select what they want, what kind of configuration, specify username and password, and then in some time there will be a HipChat notification that for your environment is like that. Maybe, yeah. If we're talking about the source code, no? So it's a simple Flask application that just, we've got API resources and we are dividing them, and then it's just the code here, and all the logic is super simple. How you create instances, how you destroy those, all of those, yeah, how you create, how you pass configuration. Yeah, actually, it's all written in Python, and it's not rocket science. It's not something that will require a lot of man hours, but it simplifies the things. If there is one part that I don't like about Ansible, it's testing for this specific situation. For Puppet and Chef, the tool called Service Stack exists, and it allows to check the decision tree mechanism. If I set these parameters, will I end up in this decision branching leaf? Unfortunately, for Ansible, I haven't found this. I know there are some people trying to use Service Stack for this, but they are doing it in a way that you provision environments and then test it. So actually, as everyone is doing this, this is what we are doing, because we have no other option. On every change to the source code, we create a set of environments and we run a mini suite of tests that QA engineers created for us. They're calling them sanity tests, to see if the environment is sane, if all the applications started, if they behave quickly, correctly. We're not checking for bugs, we're just checking if the application is still accessible, if they're working. And we do this for every change in the source code, just to be sure that our change is not destructive. The problem there is that, again, we need to create more and more environments for that with all the configuration options.
Did you try tags in your tables? For tests?
Tags?
Tags, you can trigger a particular piece of your playbook when you use tags. -- tags equals the name of the tag. You can use it for testing purposes, like a verification. Yeah. You can embed it in your playbook.
Yeah, okay. I've always thought of tags as the way to select just one particular task from the run. But if I can use it as well to try to check if I end up in that decision, that is interesting. I will try that. Just a quick thing, what we're also doing, So, yeah, it's Git. Everything is in Git. We use feature branching. Sorry, again, I can't increase the font here, but effectively we're committing frequently. We use branches for both Ansible, for both the Python service, and then from there everything should be automated. We've got mini Jenkins pipeline. Maybe it's better to show it with the code here. So we store the pipelines. But it's not here. It is here. No, it's not here. It's here. So actually, yeah, we're creating. Probably it would be easier with source code. So whenever we're changing anything, the code is deployed. Then we create a set of environments, run set of this code of environments for any change into Ansible configuration. Just to be sure. Okay, let's continue. Some results. It takes 40 to 40 minutes to provision different kind of environments. And it's not something to be proud of in 2015, but it's huge improvement over manual work for hours or days. And we're going to improve it even soon. We started from 1 stack, and now we're doing 10. We are really close to improving this to almost 25. That now depends on the test suite that we're using. It needs to be updated to allow using of different options. And we will run those in 25 by 4. This is like 100 servers we need to create simultaneously. And then we're running it continuously, and this is interesting part about creating a continuous process, that you find those issues and bugs that are just rare. Sometimes it fails 1 out of 100 times. If you're not running this frequently enough, you won't notice these things. But you're running over and over again, you create a process that you can trust that it's fast, that it will not fail. Okay, quickly why we're doing it. So we started to get closer to continuous delivery without production though. How to make it? Okay. What do we want to do? We want to create a repeatable and robust process and treat all configurations identically. So any configuration we have, we want to run the same set of tests, just to be sure that the application is the correct one. And we want to provide the feedback for development as soon as possible. For now it's okay if it gets in the morning, because this is the way it's done in this particular version of the application. But then we can do it more frequently, and we will do it more frequently. And we want to release artifacts more frequently. Again, now every iteration will be fine, but then we're running these big iterations to make the bigger releases. We are running without production. The stage is there, the component is built, then the main application is packaged, and then all the tests are going to be run. So it looks like this, more or less. And run those. It's a standard simultaneously. And at the end, yeah, we destroy those environments, but what we want to get here is that as soon as there is a failure, stop it, destroy environment, but send a notification that here, this test for this environment, for this particular configuration failed in this particular step. And then QA engineer together with developer can identify what went wrong and improve. More pipelines are going to come. Performance test pipeline almost ready. We will run the performance test, the load test, feature branch, security test. A lot more can go once we've got this automated service and once we cover more versions of the application. So, some achievements here. The minimum cycle time now, it's from the time we trigger the pipeline till the time it runs is 1 hour and 30 minutes. Again, this is not something fantastic in 2015, but this is quite good to start with. The slowest is to over 30 minutes. WebSphere again. It's always with WebSphere. We will think how to improve them. Dozens of environments are created every day, but this is a repeatable process, and we identify problems in the application, but also instabilities in our deployment process and in the tests. If tests are working, then suddenly failing, it's a failing test. We need to improve the test to get the results that are repeatable. Okay, some closing thoughts. I'm not sure it was worth discussing. We deployed the service with the $0 downtime, but well, anyway, okay. It is in the documentation of UVisky is called Zerg Dance. I played 15 years ago in StarCraft and it makes me feel good. But effectively you're replacing one set of workers with another without downtime, and it's fully automatable process. Any change into Python code triggers this, and we're not doing anything manually. It is deployed automatically, and no one even notices that there is a problem. What we're going to do in the future, the next step, asynchronous provision. Right now, this is a big issue. So we're sending requests. Please create environment and wait. For 40 minutes have passed. Okay, here you are, the environment. Cool. We want to get rid of this. We want to, for example, get as a return some kind of token, and then you can check the status, or maybe even the progress bar. We will work with this. Ansible roles again. We will get there. Optimization, maybe through pre-baked images. Instead of doing this over again, we can trigger creation of images that we will use. Specific, we don't know. Maybe containers. Containers are cool when you're running them on one host. When you're running this on 4 hosts and you need to do it in enterprise, not as easy. But we are thinking. If we got ideas how to do it, again, please let me know. And we are developing plugins for Ansible that suit our specific needs, mostly for logging or sending metrics. Waiting for Ansible v2. Some of the things are really that will help blocks for error handlers. As we're running this on scale, from time to time we find issues that, well, Amazon does not tell you that every request will succeed. And in Ansible run, okay, it's one of the 100 requests and suddenly it fails and the whole run fails. We can try in some situations to identify it, but if SSH connection failed, we can't try it again in most situations. They promise there will be a solution with blocks and also with just, it will help error handling. I don't know how, we will see. Execution strategy, linear versus free. It's an interesting thing because again, now it's step by step. It's doing step by step. But maybe we can continue configuring database server while we're awaiting something for application server. Right now it's impossible. It will be possible soon. And linear is the same as now. Free is the soonest possible. But then you can create your own schedule if you want. This can be big. Include evaluation of width. As we're not using roles, and maybe if we won't use roles, this will be big for us. It's not working now. Variable management, sometimes variables, you get them and they, instead of being a dictionary or list, they're just string, and then you are doomed. You can't do a lot with the string. In Ansible, you can't reassign variables. It was not just designed for that. So they promise Ansible version 2 will be out in June, so quite soon. Next week, but probably not, well, yeah, soon, and we're waiting for it. So I'm closing. Key takeaways. Use Ansible. Great tool. Think about immutable infrastructure. For us, it solves a lot of issues. We're creating it, disposing it on demand, any way you want. Create a repeatable process, and then you can trust it. Build quality. This is more about the testing we're doing. This is more for the testing and testing all configurations, and improve continuously. You can't create a good piece of software from the beginning. You need to find these bugs and through iteration improve those. And this is it. Thank you.
We still have time. We still have beer, and we have a lot of time for questions.
We still, I think, have got 40 minutes till we need to get out of here. So yeah, beer, questions.
I had a sort of question and comment. You talked about a linear run,
yes.
Not being able to do things in parallel. Ansible has this feature where you can sort of background and then check back, asynchronous. And I wondered if you...
We started with this, so I've talked about S3 module, how we download it. We started it with downloading from Artifactory asynchronously. The problem is that we haven't found how asynchronously to identify failures and those and create untils and those loops to make sure that it is a successful thing. Maybe it is there, but it isn't documented. But we really investigated and haven't found. And the only good solution found is to not do it asynchronously. So those tasks, they're running in the background, they're good, but not for our purpose. And this is a different thing than execution. So execution is I got the set of tasks, and if I'm applying this task for 3 servers, if one of them is slow, 2 of the rest will fail. Oh, not fail, wait. With 3, 2 of the rest can just go further without waiting for that one. So for some it will be big, for us. For your particular case, might be not, but it creates possibilities for you to choose from, or create some kind of a special schedule how it will go. But for that, you need to know Python.
But yeah, well, there's also this concept like eventual consistent architecture or infrastructure. If you design for this up front, then you can take that route. But if you already have this sort of decision tree or one big command like make new environment and everything is there, then it's harder to introduce these kind of parallelizations, asynchronous calls, because you can use async and it does polling, and you can do a wait for. You can also scrape. I saw you doing looking for particular strings in the web service, because sometimes the web service, the port is listening, there is HTTP traffic, but it only says please wait. But you can find the string and wait until it disappears and then send the request. But yeah, services that need all that kind of workarounds, yeah, it is a thin layer of ice where you're walking to do it asynchronously. Okay.
Yep.
More beer? More questions?
Let's take it with beer, or
Beer questions, or we can break out.
There's a question still, I think.
yeah. Okay.
Do you create the subnets and the VPC and stuff like that?
No, they are pre-created. We just have one subnet now. We already face implementation because the subnet is 24 and it's kind of used. We are sometimes creating 80, 100 environments simultaneously. And so we're now going to implement some more complicated logic that will have several subnets, and then the service will select itself to which subnet do I want to provision this particular stack. But that it's not yet implemented. This is our almost next step. We agreed today that we're going to do this. So yes.
What kind of operating system do you use for your Ansible control system?
It's CentOS, but effectively it can run anywhere. It's just Python code. It is run now from the system itself, but here it can run from your laptop, from your background. I have showed you your demo. The demo is running in the background.
I know.
Officially, it's not supported on Windows.
No, Windows you can't.
Officially, but you can get it to work if you spend time on it. But Linux is sort of mandated for, but it is basically Python, and you can use a virtual environment.
Yep.
With Python, or you can use pip install, or you can use a package on any flavor of Linux, and I run it for on Mac.
I use it locally on my Linux net. I was wondering if he's using a jump host or something.
What's it?
Jump host. Do you use jump host?
Jump host?
Cascaded jumping, now that you have different zones in your infrastructure?
Not at this moment. So we've got a server that we send REST calls to, and then this server triggers all the runs. But it's also located in Amazon and does everything locally there. So it's kind of local to environments that is going to produce. We're not using virtual environment because of we're starting Python in Python. We're running Python code in Ubisky because it sits behind Nginx and SSL determination. Then it runs, And then it gets tricky when you're starting another Python sessions. It creates some kind of weird bugs, and for a week we tried to overcome them, but then decided to scrap virtualenv at all and just were running them on the plain operating system in Python 2.6 because it's CentOS 6.
I use also Python Charm as a GUI, and I saw you have also all the GUIs. Can you mention it again?
GUIs?
Yeah.
I'm using
Python development.
What
This
IDE
is
do you
all-
have?
Sublime, IDEA, and well, PyCharm, yes.
Do you have it?
Yeah. And that's actually, it's up to you. You can do it in Notepad. Or VI was perfect tool well everywhere if you know how to use
Visual
it.
editor, yeah, it's way better than live.
I use it all the time, so yeah. Okay, then let's move discussion.
We have
to
a public speaker. You want to do that?
Yeah,
We have somebody who wants to present.
Good.
Yeah, to speak.
Get here.
Yeah.